This is the story of a house. What role does a house play in the life of a human body? How does a house hold us, help us, or make us who we are? Are houses affected by us? Are we affected by them? Are houses alive? I've lived in many different homes, 19 in total, if I count all the rentals, and I've noticed a consistent commonality. My childhood house in the New Jersey suburbs, my 100-year-old apartments in Manhattan, and all the other dwellings in the Southwest and Southern France or Chicago. All of these abodes have moods. They carry memory, but also a presence that borders on personality. If you don't believe me, try this experiment in your own home. Find a spot on the tile, touch it, and feel the temperature. Press your cheek against the wall. Smell the wood of the windowsill. Sing when you're alone. Let the echo wash over you. And listen closely. It's your voice, shadowed by the voice of the house. Welcome to the Extraordinary Project. Houses are a type of body. They carry the stories of us, of our life events. They hold our relationships, our joys, and our most tragic miseries. In this way, a house is a threshold, a liminal space where history exhales around us like secrets we cannot quite hear. I learned this directly over the last year when I stayed in an old house that was brimming, vibrating with a life of its own. Twice over the last year and a half, I've entered the same old house, and both times, as if slipping through a portal, the house came to life. Ragdale, as it's known, is a gray-shuttered, slate-shingled arts and crafts country estate in the north suburbs of Chicago. The house is an artist's retreat now, but it had a rich past, one I could still smell when I walked in, like a smoldered wood smoke smell filling the halls. Picture this: golden prairie light glints through the windows. The floors sigh with every step. And although the house was empty, a prickling on the back of your neck and electricity on your skin tells you you're not alone. I was at Ragdale to spend some time working on my book, and like every artist who goes on retreat, I left the routines of my ordinary life to set up in this house that had a reputation as an enchanted place. "Oh, don't be afraid of the Ragdale ghosts," other writers I knew had said. "They're benevolent and helpful." It felt a little bit like a risk and a bit of an indulgence to go there to work in the first place. And I wasn't averse to the idea of help from the beyond, but I wasn't going to call in for it. If this project has taught me one thing, it's that spirit intervention is truly unpredictable, especially in an unfamiliar place, and already there was too much I didn't know about Ragdale. Like the fact that the house itself had celebrity. It belonged to Howard Van Doren Shaw, a Chicago architect who designed and built it in 1898 for his artistic family's summer home. The Shaw family had many famous friends, many children, and fond memories of this home. They loved Ragdale. And the house, as if in return, radiates love. Even now, over a century later, this house felt good, charmed. Watercolors depicting children at play, forested wallpaper, floral carpets, even little hearts were carved into the shutters. But also, the original sculptures of the notable Sylvia Shaw, daughter of Howard, dotted the estate. Sweet stone lambs in the circular drive, dogs by the hearth, and the famous bird girl statue by the barn. All conspired to create a rare secret garden quality to the whole property, which sits on a vast prairie that disappears into the woods and then into the horizon. In the 1970s, the Shaw family made Ragdale into a foundation to be preserved in the name of art. And since then, thousands of artists have planted their creative inspiration in every one of Ragdale's rooms. And this fact is not insignificant to me, that this house is a creative portal of sorts, a place where anything is possible, anything can happen. It exists outside of the ordinary time and social structures, so artists are often working at weird hours, sequestering themselves, skipping meals, allowing their minds to roam free, all inside this house. I know it's a stretch to suggest that houses can be sentient, but there's a reason why houses become characters in literature and art and film, why there's a whole field of study, psychogeography, about the ways in which physical spaces have psychological effects on us. And so maybe you sort of believe me when I say this house had a whisper, even when it was empty. And maybe you know what I mean when I say it was hard to relax in my room because I felt like I was in someone else's domain. Someone who is no longer alive, but still undeniably there. I'm just going to come out and say it. And I know that this sounds bizarre, but on my first day, really within my first few minutes, with a type of vision I can only claim as unreliable, I saw them. An image of two older people sitting in the chairs across from my bed. Two old ladies, nice old ladies. One short-haired, solemn, sitting alone. The other tall and angular, walking back and forth, talking and gesturing with her pearl ring. They belonged here, like they were part of the house. And it's hard to say why this didn't seem like my imagination. There was nothing concrete about these transparent figures, like a wet residue that you discover in a drawer, or a thick dust you can clean out of a closet. They weren't really 3D, like a bureau or a bench. But there they were, hovering in the space between certainty and doubt. How do you know when you're seeing something extraordinary? How do you know when to look through that lens? Whether to confirm what you see or decide that you'd rather not? How do you speak about the unspeakable? It's like singing a song that nobody knows. I spent the next few minutes watching, unable to look directly at them or look away. Who were they? I wondered if I should move or say something. Wait, was one of them speaking? Yes, and kind of fast. She was pointing to the room, the house. I strained until I heard something. The words particular and idiosyncrasies flowed through my ears.
Use your particular idiosyncrasies.
Particular idiosyncrasies?
Use your particular idiosyncrasies.
What were my particular idiosyncrasies? Something, the confusion maybe, made them shimmer away. I unpacked and did what most people would do after seeing two ghosts. I went to the wine and cheese party that had begun downstairs. And when I shared what I saw with the other residents and staff, people were not surprised.
Those sound like Ragdale ghosts, all right. They just want to help.
I was supposed to stay in my room for 21 days. I wasn't sure I could do it, even though I wanted to work in their presence, and I wanted to let them help me. How did other people cope? Among the staff, reports about spirits in the Ragdale house were common. In fact, many staff members have grown used to the residents talking about mysterious happy accidents, books suddenly falling off shelves and opening to the exact right page a writer needs, or a warm, welcoming energy that holds the artist through her process. Spirits were just part of the house for a lot of people. And when I looked through the notebooks in each of the 5 bedrooms, as well as in the Meadows studio, I found references to spirits dating back decades. I tried to lean into this reality as I got to work my first week. But it was hard not to wonder if the people in my room were going to come back, and if they were my creation or the creation of the house. Then one night, it was windy outside and drafty in the room. I couldn't quite settle into sleep when this closet door burst open. And with that same unreliable vision, I saw one of the old ladies gliding towards me. She was younger now, in a stunning yellow dress that trailed behind her. She paused in front of me and spun, showing off the dress's detail, the material, the fit. I was mesmerized, couldn't even let my mind wander to a place of disbelief. I stared at her style, her power. She wanted me to know she was a exquisite hostess who had had a wonderful life. All I could think about was that I was in her house, possibly in her bed. And not only could I see her, she could see me. Maybe this was the price of coming to a beautiful, storied place. You're subjected to the stories and the people that still live in the house. I had planned on writing about this, the story about this woman, when the next day, the world changed. This was March of 2020. And as those early confounding days with the pandemic began, everyone, including the staff, started to leave Ragdale. The estate emptied. Good cheer was replaced by panic, and I watched online as the whole world was turned upside down. But for some reason, I felt protected at Ragdale, like I was under a dome. I had this dig your heels in urge to stay. And so I checked with my family, and I stayed as long as I could, hoping to see this woman again. I tried my best to tune out the worldwide crisis, kept to a strict writing schedule, resisted the internet and knowing how many thousands of people had died that day. But I saw no sign of this woman, and it nearly drove me mad. My curiosity turned to the house, and each day I investigated every room, every piece of furniture, for clues about the woman I had seen. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. Some confirmation, maybe. Some proof that we were both there, coexisting at different times. Then I checked the Ragdale history book, and when I found the page with the family tree, I felt chills. There was a picture of the woman whom I had seen in my room with her exact facial details. Her name was Evelyn Shaw, sister of Sylvie the sculptor. She was the oldest daughter and, in fact, a spectacular hostess, wife, and mother. She had hosted grand parties with royalty in the Bahamas, and people around the world had known her. She was born in 1894, and she died in 1977. I wondered if the part of her that still lived in that house knew that the world was going to suffer a great tragedy. If she had shown up to help me settle in quickly, to get in touch with my particular idiosyncrasies before things fell apart. My last night, day 18, I was alone in the house. Everyone had left, and things started to come undone. The heat fully broke. The doors in my room drifted open and closed on their own, and I woke in the middle of the night to a strong sense of fire, worried something in the house was aflame. The emptiness made it hard to concentrate, and I had to face facts that my creative spell had been broken. So I went home, back to the ordinary world that was in crisis, and I didn't know when I would get back to Ragdale again. A little over a year later, I returned to Ragdale, and I didn't know what I could expect from myself. It had been a year of exhausting anxiety, but also of deep disconnect. Even though I was weeks away from getting the vaccine, I still felt like the whole world, myself included, was kind of broken. I arrived on the property, and immediately I noticed a big change. Diggers and construction trucks, porta-potties, and piles of debris littered the estate. I was staying not in the house, but in an adjoining apartment. The pandemic had left it under-visited, and it felt uninspired. And instead of mysterious feelings of love and support, at night there was this strange red glow in the hallway that kept me awake, and this chronic hum from the heater that I couldn't silence. The whole first week, something was just off, and I worried that Ragdale had lost its enchantment. Maybe with the pandemic's ravaging of society, Ragdale's magical vibe was permanently disturbed. Maybe it was no longer alive. But when the staff suggested I relocate to the Meadow Studio, deeper into the property, on the prairie, I felt this familiar sense of ease come over me. The Meadow Studio was the meditative workplace of Sylvia Shaw, Evelyn's sister. And as soon as I stepped in, I was met by walls of windows and soft, filtered light. I set up my manuscript on one table and my computer on another table, and maybe because the light was so soft, or the surrounding prairie was so quiet, or because the pandemic had just wiped out any creative life force within me, I was overwhelmed with fatigue. And in the corner was this tiny couch, completely protected from the light of all of those windows, as if this studio space predicted I would be tired. I laid down, closed my eyes, and entered a state of rest where I could almost see my own body breathing. I felt the sun overhead and heard birds cross the sky, and the wind swirled around me like I was in a cone. And in this dreamy, hypnagogic state, I was aware of the plaid chair across from the couch, faded red and green, with an arm torn and stuffing coming out of it. A transparent figure appeared by the chair, one of the same ones I saw in the house a year ago. And this time I knew what I didn't know then. It was Sylvia. She moved over to me and gently touched my arm, saying, "Wake up now. Wake up. You can do your work here. It's time to work." I think about these events months later as we emerge from the pandemic, and I still don't have firm answers. Why these ghosts showed themselves to me, why they show themselves to so many people at Ragdale and never to others. Maybe I had an honest encounter, and I should consider myself lucky. Or maybe, like a monastery, Ragdale has its own micro-atmosphere that aids artists when they click with the house and enter a certain state of mind. But my favorite idea comes from a conversation I had with a parapsychologist who pointed out that we're living in liminal times. The pandemic has cracked open our sense of order. The boundaries of society and how to survive in it are being redrawn. He mentioned an uptick in sightings like the one I had of the two sisters at Ragdale. This uptick occurred right before the pandemic set in, he said, which made me think about something else I read, that the extraordinary or paranormal or otherworldly tends to show up in times of change. I don't know that I can bring you all along with me on this line of thinking, but I do know that after a long period of isolation, during which the house was left to dwell within its own membrane, Ragdale is now emerging as most of us are, raw and vulnerable, forever transformed, but alive. The Extraordinary Project was created by me, Suzanne Clores, with mixing and sound design by Malika Gumpangam and original compositions by Fancy Mountain. This is the season finale. You can tune in for bonus episodes while Season 3 is under construction. And of course, if you like The Extraordinary Project, make sure to tell all your friends and follow me on social media at Suzanne Clores on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also get in touch at theextraordinaryproject.net. Thanks for taking this journey with me. Until next time.